Hi everyone, I'm Felicia Maroney from Affirmative Girls, and today here with Cheronne, and I'll let her introduce herself a bit here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Cheronne Thurab. I am a plant mom from Toronto. I'm a plant hobbyist, not an expert by any means, but I use plant care as my form of self care. Yeah.
I mean, I know you say you're not an expert, but I cannot keep any of those, so you're far more advanced than most of us, I'd say. So the first thing I want to ask is when did you start growing that collection that you have in the back there and wherever else you have?
So I've always been surrounded by plants. For a really long time, my focus was flowers,
Right.
floral photography in particular. If you go on my Instagram, I have a highlight dedicated to flowers,
Mhm.
only because plant people are not always flower people. So I've purchased plants on many different occasions and they kind of all just died, and that was what it was.
Yeah.
And then one Christmas, my sister gifted me two plants. She gifted me a peace lily and a flamingo flower. And it's always different when somebody gives you something because then you feel a certain amount of responsibility for
Yeah.
it. Um,
Yeah.
because when I purchased plants with my own money, I was like, if they die, whatever. But when she gave
Gotcha.
it to me, I was like, okay, I guess I need to learn how to take care of them.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did. I started researching what they needed, if I had the right conditions for them. And bit by bit, as I was doing my research, I was like, oh, I want one of those, and one of those, and one of those. And plant shopping is very addictive.
Yeah.
So I very quickly amassed a decent sized collection.
Mhm.
Um, and now here we are. I downsized a little bit as the months have gotten colder, just
Yeah.
because a lot of plants go into dormancy. I don't live in a particularly humid environment.
Mhm.
And as a mother to a human being, I don't have as much time to dedicate to high maintenance plants.
Yeah. No, I feel that.
So right now I'm sitting at about 38 plants,
Wow.
um, which is a considerable drop from what I had in the summer, but it will increase next summer when I start purchasing again.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, my partner is addicted also to shopping for plants, and like we'll just be walking down the streets because like in Toronto, maybe not this past summer, but a lot of shops would always have their stuff out, like even
Yeah,
convenience stores, and he just
yeah.
like, oh, I need to get that, I need to get that. I, on the other hand, I'm like, I'm just really not good at them. And I always tell people, I'm like, please don't give me a plant because then I'm just gonna feel even worse when it dies. So with that, I guess you kind of touched upon it uh, briefly there, but like, how did you start like learning about how to take care of plants, or was it like something that you self-taught solely, or did you grow up with plants and your parents taught you how to do it? Or...
So my grandmother, I'm from Trinidad. I lived there until I was 10 and then we moved here. My grandmother was a certified green thumb, but as a child, I could not care less about plants. They kind of just existed around me.
Yeah.
Um, my mom likes to look at plants, but she's not a plant mom.
Mhm.
And for me, as I said, flowers were my thing. Um, but in becoming a plant parent, things started coming back to me. I would go into plant shops and I would be like, oh, Mumsy had one of those. Or I
Mhm.
remember this from Mumsy's garden. And I would send pictures to my cousins. And my cousin was always like, you should get a fern like Mumsy had in the veranda. And I'm like, I live in Toronto. There's not enough humidity here for me to buy a fern. um, so I'm self-taught mostly, but my
Mhm.
cousin likes to joke whenever I'm struggling with a plant. She's like, just call on the ancestors to guide you through the care. And memories live so deep within us that sometimes I would be struggling with a plant and
Mhm.
then something really random will come to me. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it and see if it works. And we'll see how it goes. And while my grandmother was unable to pass things down to me because she passed away when I was pretty young,
Mhm.
um, I have memories of them existing, and that plays a part in which plants I'm kind of drawn toward.
I feel that. I mean, it also shows that you were listening because I also grew up with plants and it has not registered. Both my parents are really into, planting flowers and having houseplants and just,
It's one
so,
of those things, like, you can appreciate it objectively, but taking on
mhm.
a plant, because they are living and breathing things,
Yeah.
it is a whole other ball game.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, yeah. To actually jump on that, what you just said, if you could recommend the starter plant to someone who hasn't had the best of luck with plants, I know maybe it would be based on their lifestyle or personality, but like if you were to recommend, say, one of your really good friends a plant.
there are a few that I would recommend. So I would recommend pothos.
Okay.
A pothos is a plant that I've gifted to people who don't have plants but would like to dabble.
Okay.
If you live in a home where there's lower light, and people confuse low light to mean no light, that's not
Hmm.
the same thing. But if you live in a low light place, I would recommend a snake plant,
Okay.
a ZZ plant, and something that some people say they struggle with, but I think is a relatively easy plant to deal with, is Hoya. And there are several varieties of Hoyas, but I have a Crimson Princess, a Compacta, and a Hoya Carry. And my Hoya Crimson Princess is probably like my favorite easygoing plant.
Yeah.
I ignore it, and it's just like, oh, here's a leaf. And I'm like,
Oh
okay,
wow. Okay.
thanks.
I haven't heard of that one. I got to look that up after.
It's the cutest thing. I'll grab it and show you. So it looks like this.
Oh wow. Oh, okay. I have seen
Yeah,
those.
and it has tips of pink,
Yeah.
and it's just like, it's so easygoing. It has grown a ton since winter started,
Oh wow. Okay.
and yeah, I see people being like, why isn't my Hoya growing? They need bright light, but
Okay.
you can neglect them.
That's good. So again, you've already touched upon this, so you're already ahead of me. But it's like I think, and it's not even my thought, but if people know that having plants in your home is good for like physical and mental health benefits. And have you noticed since growing your collection any improvements on how you feel?
You know what? I do notice when I started collecting plants, I realized there was a change in the air quality in my home for sure.
Mhm.
Um, I have most of my plants in my bedroom,
Okay.
and I do feel like I breathe a little easier. But this is kind of like my safe space, my comfort space.
Yeah.
And like I said, plant care for me is self care. So when I'm tending to my plants, that's really just me time. But it's also something that I'm now passing on to my daughter.
That's
In
good.
that she's 3, but I will actively involve her in taking care of the
Yeah.
plants with me. We'll go through and we'll water them. Most of my plants have names, and she knows their names.
That's
Um,
good. That's cute.
and she's always kind of like telling people, this is Robin. I have a rubber tree and I've named her Robin.
Oh,
And if anybody bumps into it, she's like, you can't bump Robin. So when she turned through, I was like, maybe I should get her some plants of her own. And so she has 3 plants in her room.
oh
And
wow. That's nice.
it's it's a cycle we're now continuing.
That's
um,
good.
so it's, like I said, it's definitely like self-care for me. It's not just me time, it's time for me and my daughter. And I think it's so important for us to like have something to share that we can do at home, especially like during a year like we've had.
Yeah. I didn't have this on the list, but I don't know if you would be willing, because I'm also based in Toronto, and I feel like a lot of people I talk to or who watch this are also Ontario based so far. Do you have any favorite shops that you like
Yeah,
to visit?
absolutely. So my favorite plant nurseries are definitely close to me.
Mhm.
So Valley View Gardens, Justin Markham, Vandermeer Nursery in Ajax,
Okay.
and Home Depot, actually. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people sleep on Home Depot. Um, I've gotten,
My mom is big on the Home Depot plants. So,
yeah, yeah. Some of my favorite plants came from Home Depot and they are thriving.
are they? Oh, nice.
Yeah, I bought Marble Queen Pothos for $3. It was the tiniest little thing, and it's so big now. I'll actually show you how big it is now. Her name
Please.
is Martha. But this thing was
Oh,
so
wow.
small when I got it, and honestly, I don't do much of anything, and
Mhm.
she's thriving.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. So I guess the last thing is, again, we have touched upon this, but do you have any advice for people who want to start a mini collection, and where should, like, what's the headspace that they should be in to start that?
So there are a few things you should always consider when plant shopping.
Mhm.
Um, so one, I think this is a really important one. How much time do you want to dedicate to it?
Yeah,
Because some plants are really pretty, but they require much more from you than you might have to give.
yeah.
So how dedicated do you want to be to it? What are the light conditions in your space? Do you have a lot of bright light or is it more of a low light situation? And as
Mhm.
I said, low light and no light are two different things, and people seem to think that, oh, this is a low light plant. I'm going to put it in my bathroom where there is no natural light. You can't do that. So consider the light conditions in your space, consider how much you want to dedicate in terms of your time and commitment, and also consider, this might be a little more difficult, just like how dry your space is, because a lot of plants, especially tropical plants, require humidity.
Mhm.
um, and if you're not prepared to mist your plants or buy a humidifier, they're gonna be dry and crispy and they're gonna die.
Yeah.
um, so that's, I think, the most important thing for people to consider, just like what their space is like and what the light
Mhm.
conditions are and how much time they're going to dedicate to it. Because one of two things will happen if you don't consider that. You will just be wasting your money because plants will be dying, or your
Yeah.
plants will keep dying and you'll be stressed out because you don't know why.
Yeah.
Um, and like us, like human beings, plants all have unique individual needs.
Mhm.
So just because you buy a pothos doesn't mean that you're in a place to buy a prayer plant because they need different things.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, just consider your space before committing to a plant. But that being said, I think plant care or plant parenthood is very much trial and error.
Mhm.
We're all killing plants. Anybody who is not killing a plant, I don't believe them. We're all doing it. We've all done it. It's
Yeah.
okay because life is trial and error.
So I appreciate all that advice, and I'm sure many other people will.
I hope so.
And yeah, I I really want to thank you for taking the time to
You're
talk to me.
welcome.
And of course, I will be linking in the post and on Instagram all the stuff to your pages so people can go visit you and follow your plant journeys. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. This was nice.
No, it was. Thank you.